Hi, hello and welcome to a new reaction here from Faceless Guy. Today I will react again to Geography Now India. There's a reason also why I do this. Again, I did already made my reaction over a year ago when I first started with my channel here, and now I do it again. I also got to know to a person from India. That's why I also make this video again. I will talk about a few things which she told me about, and yeah, I will also ask him some questions. So to all Indian people who may watch this video, there are a few things which I think are interesting to know about, and I have a few questions about. Like, for example, to make a long story short, your exact relations to Pakistan. China is not so important. I know China is a rivalry, and so I mean both big countries, many people live there, and yeah, I understand this. So, but with Pakistan, I maybe he will to speak about this, but I think he will speak about this. And also, maybe if I feel like this, I will also continue and make this video an even longer video and react also to Pakistan, like India and Pakistan in one video. Both powerful countries, both have nukes, and I hope they don't fight a war with the nukes. So, let's see. Sometimes I also mute myself like this. For example, when I have to cough. So I'm still a bit sick, so that's the reason why I mute myself when I will cough. But mostly I hope I will record everything, and yes, sometimes it happened that I record something, I make a video, and then I mute myself and forget that I'm muted. I'm continuing to talk, then I want to unmute myself, and then I mute myself when I think that I want to unmute myself. Anyway, I hope this doesn't happen in this video. And yeah, okay. Let's start. I know about India, of course. Most people live now in India. They overtook China recently, a few months ago. And 1.4 billion people live there. It's a very rich country in history and culture, languages, and diversity. Yeah, I found this recently. The Communist Party of India. I would support this party, of course, immediately. I think I would support this party. At least they're communist, and I am also communist, so that's a big plus point. And they have 3 seats there and 5 seats here. In the, I don't know how this come. I think this is the underhouse, one of the chambers, and then this the other one, of course. Yeah, I like this party. I think I have not read this article, but at least their ideology, I like communism, so I guess I will like it. Okay. Enough about this. I also looked about this one here, Communist Party of Pakistan, but they are not even registered right now. That's sad. And just 191 votes in the only election they participated in. I'm not sure, but that's a little bit sad. Anyway, we start with this video.
So, we have finally encroached upon the giant India. Some of you have been waiting a long time for this episode. I'm just gonna say straight up, you all know India is incredibly complex and diverse. Even Indians have trouble understanding their own country.
She also told me this, the person I spoke with from India, that you sometimes you have to drive only a few hundred kilometers, and you will not be able to understand the people who are living there, because there are, I think, over 1,600 languages spoken in India. So, and there are 22 official languages, which is kind of mind blowing for me as a German. There's only, of course, one native language. We have some minority languages like Frisian, Danish, Sorbian, but yes, only one native language. But yeah, interesting. South Africa has also 11 languages, official languages.
Obviously, I won't be able to scratch even the surface in this episode, but I'll try my best. A lot of you Indian geography peeps have helped me along the way, so thank you, and without further ado, let's begin.
It's time to learn geography.
Now! Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbie. This place doesn't even need much of an introduction. Everybody has heard of India. It's big, it's loud, it's colorful, and most importantly, it has a plethora of confusing territorial anomalies that I just can't wait to cover.
Yes, the territory and the borders of India are sometimes very weird. I watched a video from a real life law about the border with Bangladesh. I mean, they fixed something of the border, but it's still very confusing to say the least. And it was much worse in the past. But I think they fixed it recently. Kind of recently. He will also talk about this, I think. I think in the Bangladesh episode he was still saying that how complicated the border is, but in the meantime, so in this episode, it already have changed. So
Here we go. There's an old saying, India is a place where everyone is in a hurry.
so the purple regions you see on the Indian map are disputed territories, Jammu and Kashmir. This thing in the east, I'm not sure how it is called. But he will also talk about this in the video, and I'm also not sure about this one. But I think that's the Jammu and Kashmir, which is a disputed territory between India and Pakistan, and to some extent also China. But I think the main dispute is with Pakistan.
But no one is ever on time. First of all, India is located in South Asia, right on the Indian and Arabian Seas and the Bay of Bengal, bordered by 6 other countries, so close to 7, but that land bridge between Sri Lanka got wiped away like 600 years ago by a cyclone. India is divided into 29 states and 7 union territories.
The person I was talking with also mentioned that some people believe, or it is kind of a religious belief, a Hindi belief, that the bridge between Sri Lanka and the Indian subcontinent is still existing underwater. Just there's some story with a god about this, but I don't remember. I'm not sure about this. I'm not exactly sure what she told me. She told me something about this, but yeah, I'm not religious, so I don't know. But the land bridge, or the bridge between Sri Lanka and India, of course, exists still underwater, because the water has risen. The cyclone destroyed the upper parts of the bridge, but there's still, of course, the connection. I mean, if you would lower the water completely, there would be a connection with everything, with all the continents, because the floor of the ocean is still, of course, part of the earth. So it makes sense. But yeah, there's also some kind of Hindu story about this. If you know about this, and if you know anyone else about this, you can also or they can also, whoever knows about this, write something about this in the comments and tell me.
With the capital New Delhi, which acts as its own administrative unit, located in the capital territory. Keep in mind, New Delhi is actually just the name of one of the districts in the capital territory, made up of 11. The largest city, however, is actually Mumbai, with New Delhi, Bangalore or Bengaluru, and Hyderabad following after. However, the 4 busiest airports are Delhi Indira Gandhi International, Mumbai's Chhatrapati Shivaji International, Bengaluru's Kempe Gowda International, and Chennai International in the south. You know why I'm smiling. This is my favorite part of any...
Now we will speak about the territorial disputes with other countries, and I'm curious about this. Let's see.
Episode we ever make. Territorial anomaly time. India is loaded with strange borders and deliciously complex demarcation lines. First of all, what exactly is a union territory? In the simplest way I can put this, union territories are places that are too distinct to be incorporated into a state, but too small to have their own local governments. The first one, of course, is the Delhi National Capital Territory, where the capital lies. Chandigarh is a post-independent city constructed to replace Lahore as the capital of the Punjab area after it was split up between India and Pakistan. Then you have the island territories, the smallest one, Lakshadweep, and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The Andaman Islands being home to one of the...
I've heard of this a tribe on this island which was never contacted by anyone and still lives like or people lived, humans lived a few 100,000 years ago, and that's very interesting.
last uncontacted people groups on the planet, the Sentinelese tribe, whom have been hostile to visitors and are therefore left alone, as well as the Nicobar Islands, which actually used to be a short-lived colony of Denmark. Finally, the 3 remaining territories are former European colony towns and ports. Dadra and
No, it gets very confusing, I think. When I remember correctly, this part is very confusing. You can tell me more about the different city-states in the comments if you would.
Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, which are separated by about 200 kilometers across the Gulf of Kambat, and the most confusing Union territory, the French-speaking Puducherry, which is actually split up between 4 district cities across India.
So Puducherry has 4 districts, and they are all located. So I mean, like whatever, far away. That's weird. Yeah, please tell me about this if you know something about this.
Karikal, Mahe, Yanaon, and Pondicherry. Pondicherry is strange because it has 11 enclaves within the Tamil Nadu.
And this is also okay. I stopped pausing about this, but it's weird. And one thing in general, I always pause if I say something. I think it's just politely to let the video speak for itself, and I pause and ask questions, add some additionally information I may have or not have. Moment. Okay. It's alright. I was just confused about something. Yeah, I add some extra information when I have to say, or want to say something, but I always pause. I think it's I think I don't like it if people who react to stuff don't do this. It's weird.
State.
So the video can be I don't know, twice as long as the original video or 3 times as long. No problem. I watch through it if I'm interested, but it's really annoying if people just talk into the video.
This area you can also find the experimental hippie-ish commune with a little bit of controversy. Look it up.
Yeah, if you know about this, also tell me.
Don't forget, here, the eastern states, also known as the Seven Sisters, are connected by this incredibly narrow 27-kilometer wide pathway known as the Siliguri Corridor. This pathway is like a crucial artery that completes the India puzzle. Or so you would think. Now let's discuss the juicy stuff. Now, in the China episode, I already talked about the disputed areas with India, such as Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh. The latter pretty much just belonging to India as it's almost completely inhabited and operated by Indians. So let's move to the other disputes. Now, as of 2015, the Bangladesh episode is already outdated.
You see how weird and absolute confusing it is. There's a nice video from Real Life Raw about this. It's it's also of course outdated when because they fixed the border or made it more easy, the border. But super weird. It was super weird.
As India and Bangladesh have finally come to an agreement over the frighteningly complex former enclave-exclave dispute. In the end, India only lost about 40 square kilometers of land to Bangladesh, and now only a few enclaves and exclaves exist. Now let's head north. Now, when you try to draw the shape of India, you might want to be careful which depiction you use. Some might use this picture, some might use this, some might use this, and those that don't really study very well might use this. The point is, the whole area is like the most heavily militarized, diplomatically stressed out region on the planet. It's already had like 4 wars in the past half century. Basically, India, Pakistan, and to some extent China all want the entire area for themselves, although it's more of like a Pakistan-India thing. In the China episode, we already discussed the Chinese disputes with India, so I won't cover those in this episode. If you want to learn more, just watch the China episode. But anyway, this entire area was a former domain known as the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir that was under royal Maharaja rulers all the way up until independence. Currently, this place is split up by this fenced-off militarized line known as the line of control between India and Pakistan. Why is this? Well, in the quickest way I can put this,
Okay, the British are out. We get to take your land.
no, we want to be an independent princely state.
We're supposed to take your land, and majority of your people are Muslim, just like us, even though your ruler is Hindu as well.
Hey, India?
Yeah,
If you help me, I'll let you secede my territory to your land with autonomy.
deal.
Ha!
I'm not sure how accurate it is, but it looks like a funny way to illustrate this conflict. Yeah, and I really hope there will be peace someday. Hopefully soon. I think that there's never a good reason to have a conflict and fight each other, especially in wars. But yeah. Pakistani, Indian people, tell me what are your problems with one another?
Your problem now! I love how Mike played India. He totally represents India. Oh, and keep in mind, Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, is less than 80 kilometers away from all that drama. The line of control meanders through the mountains until it stops at a point called NJ9842. This is where things get really crazy because from there you hit the Siachen Glacier, the second longest non-polar glacier in the world, and this is pretty much the dead man zone. After point NJ9842, you hit the actual ground position line, a series of military outposts that extend all the way to the Chinese border. That means everything in this area is ground zero for the Indo-Pak tension. And you know, the crazy thing is there's actually literally small towns of normal, regular civilians live.
Poor people who live there who maybe just want to have a normal life and don't want to be in the center of this conflict.
In these areas high up in the mountains, many of which just go about daily life, going to work and raising their families. Otherwise, they have a river dispute with Nepal and various river islands disputed with Bangladesh. Outside of all the dispute stuff though, India not only has the world's second largest road network and 3 of the world's top 10 megacities and their own space program, but they also have a copious abundance of landmarks and notable sites.
This will be interesting because if I ever visit India, which may happen in the future, I want to know where to go and what to see. I mean, I like to travel to other countries, and yeah, that's why I may visit India at some point. I also want to visit China, of course, also Pakistan if I have the option, Nepal, and I mean pretty much all countries in the world, except maybe a few exceptions. Like for example, Israel, Ukraine, and the United States, for various different reasons. Which also may change and develop in the future. So maybe in 10 years I would love to visit Israel, Ukraine, or the United States because the things which I didn't like change. So who knows?
Too many to list, but some of the ones that you guys, the Indian geography peeps, have told me to mention include places like the abandoned Danush Kodi Ghost City, Golconda Fort, the 4 pillars of Charminar, the Ajanta Buddhist art caves, the Ellora monolithic ruins, Mandu Fortress, the Golden Temple, which feeds over 100,000 people a day, the Gol Gumbaz Mausoleum, the Kalavantin Durg Post.
Moment. This looks awesome. I mean, is it a fortress at the top? Or is it just like a... I mean, whether it's now a fortress or not, I think on a clear day, you have a fantastic view on the landscape, and that seems like something which is worth doing.
The ruins of Hampi, the hill forts of Rajasthan, Shatrunjaya Hill, which is basically like a mecca for Jains, the temple of the Bodhi tree, Jal Mahal, Banghat Fort, the most haunted place in India, Mahabat Maqbara, temple of the Bodhi tree, Jal Mahal, Banghat Fort, the most haunted place in
I have to say, sounds interesting. The most haunted place in India. It doesn't look that scary, but yeah, maybe it is.
in India, Mahabat Maqbara, and keep in mind, just like in China, you can find a Great Wall of India in Rajsamand. There's also the Paritala Anjaneya Temple with the largest statue in India depicting Hanuman, and at over 150 acres, the Sri Rangan Attaswamy Temple, the largest Hindu temple in the world. Oh yeah, and there's also that building with the stuff in the thing, whatever. Anyway, we could go on for centuries talking about India.
You can also, if you have some good suggestions or some good stuff you want to share about India, India's culture, India's great places to visit, do it to comments.
His rich constructed domicile, but what it lies on top of is even more fascinating.
Like about the snow comes the physical geography. In the north, of course, the Himalaya, which has a huge influence on India's geography. As far as I know, through some storms in summer, there's massive rainfall in the summer, and these clouds, these monsoons, cannot pass over the mountains, and that's why in the north of the mountains in Tibet, there's so little rainfall, if any at all. Tibet and the Taklamakan Desert. There are deserts in the north of the Himalaya mountains, the Gobi Desert as well, and that's as far as I understand because of the Himalaya. And India profits from this through the monsoons, which then come back down again, and there's massively rainfall, and also the rich soil which comes from the rivers down the Himalaya, like the Indus, the Ganges, and the Brahmaputra. Probably, I'm sorry for mispronouncing it, but those three big important rivers also for India.
Now, don't make this mistake.
I'm going to India. All I need are my sandals and sunscreen.
Oh, crap. Now, as the 7th largest country in land area, India has a wide range of landscapes.
The countries which are larger than India are Australia, Brazil, US, China, and Russia. Smaller, the next smallest I think is Argentina, Kazakhstan, then I'm not sure, at some point also Saudi Arabia, but I'm not sure, there are also maybe something in between which I know forgot.
Climates, and elevations that all contrast from one corner to the other. First of all, let's talk about...
I played this game once, I think with population, but I also played a similar game with physical size, where I had to guess the countries which is larger and which is smaller. Maybe there's a link or you can find it on my channel.
The north. India sits on the Indian tectonic plate that essentially smashed into the Eurasian plate, which in return created the largest mountain range in the world, the Himalayas. The force is so strong that it's estimated that the Himalayas grow about 2.4 inches or 6.1 centimeters every year. There's also where you can find Kanchenjunga, the tallest mountain in India, or the third in the world, right on the border of Nepal. Keep your eye on these mountains. These are pretty much the source of most of India's major rivers that give life to the whole country. That's why India takes these mountains so seriously. You can also find the largest natural lake, Wular, up in the Jammu Kashmir area. Below the Himalayas, you reach the North Indian River Plain, sometimes referred to as the Indus Ganga. This is the most fertile part of India where the most important rivers like the Ganges and its tributaries flow. Heading a little south, you reach the Satpura and Vindhya ranges that pretty much divide North India from South India. On each side, you get the West and East Ghat Mountains, which in return creates this massive triangle thing called the Deccan Plateau. This place is moderately forest, especially in the east in the Chotra Nagpur Plateau, where you get a section of the swampy Sundarbans that they share with Bangladesh. Check out the Bangladesh episode. Head a little west and you get the dry Thar Desert along the border with Pakistan, as well as the Rann of Kutch, known as the Salt Desert. And finally, the only active volcanic area would be the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, with Barren Island having actual conical eruptions and Bharatan having tame mud volcanoes. Now here's the thing, although India has a relatively high population density, they do relatively well with maintaining their ecological footing. In fact, in 2016, they beat a world record by planting, disputably, 50 million trees in one day. They've also agreed to reforest about 12% of their country by 2030. The most heavily forested area being the 7 sister states in East India. Now, one of the factors that contributes to this would be the fact that India has the lowest meat consumption in the world, with the highest population percentage of vegetarians at around 40%, most of whom are lacto-vegetarians that consume milk products. By the way, in India, when buying groceries, this label means vegetarian and this one means not vegetarian. Nonetheless,
I mean, I don't eat so much anyway, so much different food, so it doesn't matter for me, but interesting to know.
remainder of the population does typically eat some kind of animal protein, mostly in the forms of seafood or chicken, but almost never beef or pork unless if you are part of the Muslim or Christian minorities scattered throughout the west and east areas. Now let's talk about the role of cattle, shall we?
Yeah, that's something, I mean, I heard about this before, I know about this, that cows are holy and in the Hindu culture and in the Indian culture. Yeah, I heard about this, but it's still absolutely weird. But I mean, I guess different cultures and so, of course, why not? It's just very weird for someone, I think, from Germany or Western countries. But interesting, yes. Let's continue.
India has more cattle and livestock than anywhere else in the world at around 330 million. And it's interesting because since they have prevalent Hindu traditions, the killing of cows is illegal in many of the states except for a few, and each state has varying degrees of punishment for committing intentional cow slaughter. Keyword intentional. Cows accidentally get hit by cars all the time. Once a cow is too old to produce milk, it typically is released into the open to die naturally in the wild, ideally. Nonetheless, male cattle get it much worse as they are deemed as kind of useless. Some places use them as draft animals for labor, some religious sects use them as sacrifices, but otherwise they are typically sold to the underground market for beef or hides. To this day, there are about 6 times as many female cows as male cattle in India, so that means, yeah, something's happening to the males. Nonetheless, India does have the 3rd highest carbon emission rate after China and the US, 4th if you consider the EU. However, emission per capita, they rank pretty low at only about 2 kilotons per person. Contrast that with Qatar at about 40. There are 94 national parks, 501 animal sanctuaries across the country where you can find some of the national animals like the peacock, the Ganges River dolphin, the king cobra, the Indian elephant, and the highest population of Bengal tigers in the world, which are all highly protected. India also has the most irrigated land in the world, which allows them to become the #1 producer of multiple products like millet, bananas, lemons, limes, mangoes, ginger, chickpeas, milk, butter, fennel, jute, and about 75% of the world's spices alone come from India. Speaking of which, food! Typically you can find the staples roti, chapati, and naan in the north, idli and dosa in the south, and everybody eats rice. The more commonly commercialized Indian foods that we in the West grew up knowing, like samosas, tikka masala, tandooris, and my favorite Indian dish, palak paneer, these usually come from the northern regions of India. Seriously, India, you took spinach and made it fat. I love you guys! Otherwise, the West is mostly known for their chutneys and pickled foods, as well as beef, since there's a high number of Muslims and Christians. The South uses a lot more coconut and has some of the best curries like poriyals, sambras, rasams, and tutus. And the East is known for having the best
I don't know any of this so far, so but I'm also not, as I said, such a big guy for food. I'm not impressed by food so much. I mean, I don't eat much, so yeah, that's why.
desserts like peda, mishti doi, rasgulla, or shondesh. Speaking of which, India is so diverse and complex that sometimes even Indian people need translators when going to different states. It's about to get 10 times more confusing in about 3, 2, 1.
The Indian population. I think at this time it was the second most populated country in the world. Now it's the first most populated country in the world. 1.4 billion people. Some 100,000 or some thousand more than China. They overtook China this early this year. So yeah, but still, let's see the Indian population demographics.
Shashti Tharoor once said, "In India, we celebrate the commonality of major differences. We are a land of belonging rather than blood." First of all, India has a population of about 1.3 billion people and is the second most populous country in the world after China, with about 18% of the world's population. About 72% of the country is Indo-Aryan and a quarter are Dravidian, and the majority of the remainder are Mongoloid, Asian, and other people groups. They also use the Indian rupee as their currency, they use the Type C, D, and M plug outlets, and they drive on the left side of the road. By the way, technically it's illegal for these banknotes to leave the country, but you guys have sent me a lot of them for fan mail for Fan Friday videos, so I don't want to go to jail again. Now keep in mind,
Don't ask. Okay, don't ask.
those statistics that I just mentioned are incredibly generalized. Of the Indo-Aryan and Dravidian communities,
I think when can I say this, the only region in the world which is more ethnically and linguistically more diverse than India is sub-Sahara part of Africa, with the Congo, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Zambia, and all of these countries in the above South Africa, and below the Sahara Desert. I think that's the only region in the world which is more more diverse in when it's about ethnicity and languages.
About 2,000 different ethno-linguistic people groups in India, with about 645 district indigenous tribes, 52 major ones. So obviously we can't cover them all, but what we do know is that the north is very different from the south. For one, the north mostly speaks in language.
In this house, here you can help me also tell me something. In this house, at some point in the history of India, there was the Tamil kings, something like this, and somewhere I have heard, and I may completely be wrong about this, but some descendants or some people which came after the Tamil kings, or which they were fleeing, or they were going over the ocean at some point, and Japan was later populated by people which were related or came like the Tamil kings. So, is there any connection between how Japan was settled by humans, or with culture, and the Tamil kings? I heard this. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe I misunderstood something. But yeah, I tell me about the Tamil kings if you're interested. If you know about this.
Languages that are all related to the Indo-Aryan branch, with languages like Hindi, Bengali, Punjabi, and Gujarati, whereas the south speaks a completely unintelligible Dravidian branch, with languages like Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, and Kannada.
Canada.
Otherwise, there's also pockets of Sino-Tibetan and Austroasiatic languages spoken in the far north and east.
Wait, so how do they all, like, communicate with each other?
Great question!
English. she also the person I was talking with in India told me this that Hindi and English, and then sometimes they combine both and they speak Hindi English, and this is then called Hinglish.
Although
And also something again to Pakistan, if you may tell me about this, Urdu and Hindi. I heard that they are very similar, at least when it's spoken, and very different when it's written, because the Urdu is written in the in Arabic writing system, and Hindi not. So how much similar it is if you just communicate in talking with one another, Hindi and Urdu.
India does not have an official language, there are 22 recognized national languages, and of these, 2 are the most prevalent.
Okay, let's see on this map. English is the native language. The only in 1, 2, 4 of the 7 sister states. Hindi is in the center thing there. Regional, Urdu, Karachi, Tamil, Bengali. Interesting. So Urdu is in the far north. Okay, Punjabi. Okay, let's continue.
Taught in schools and used by government officials, Hindi and English. And very often these two are like mixed mid-sentence. It's weird. Don't be surprised if you hear someone speaking Hindi and then suddenly finishing off in English. It's like,
And I was like, "Badis," and I was like trying to why are you even trying to do that?
I know, right? And in the washing machine, I told them, a Bob Saget with a chainsaw. Now, of course, let's discuss the one thing that goes hand in hand with India, Hinduism. About 80% of India claims to be Hindu, or at least part of the Hindu practicing community. Now, we don't have time to explain everything about the tenets and multi-layered philosophies and practices of Hinduism. If you want to know, just talk to a Hindu person. But basically, one thing you do need to know is that Hindu-driven ideologies pretty much dominate most of life in India, everything from family to business. You will see colorful, mesmerizing shrines, temples, statues, and rituals being performed everywhere, even in public. On the Bharat Mata, the
Bharat Mata, I've heard of this also, and is that also India thinking about or is the Indian name in Hindi the name for the country Bharat? I heard something like this, or something with B. I'm not sure about this. And yeah, if you are from if you are a Hindu practicing Indian, I think it's a high likelihood that you are. Then and you have the time, please explain me something. Or recommend me a video about Hinduism, and so if you want, you can do so. I would maybe react to it on the channel if this is something people want to see.
Mother of India statues are everywhere.
I am not religious. I don't believe in Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, or anything else. I am atheist. I don't believe that there is something higher, spiritual, religious, anything. So only stars above me in my eyes, but please tell me about your beliefs.
Where she's like the symbol of India. The largest Hindu pilgrimage, the Kumbh Mela, happens every 3 years, rotating between 4 cities, in which the adherents bathe in the Ganges River and enjoy a massive festival with tens of millions of people. Like, seriously, you can practically see it happening from space. Now, a controversial topic in relation to Hinduism would be the caste system, which is basically a belief that people are born into a socio-economic life that they are destined to serve into. Today, however, the system is more fluid and
It's also weird, the caste system. I mean, my Indian person who I spoke with also talked about this, but still, it's weird. I'm not sure about this. I don't know. I think I don't like this. I mean, obviously, I don't like this. It's a social class, and as I am against, I am in favor of dismantling all classes in society. So I mean, as a communist, so yeah. Anyway.
loose from what it used to be from a long time ago, and thanks to economic reforms, anybody with enough drive can kind of move up the social ladder regardless of birth. Nonetheless, India is home to every major religion in the world, even a few Jews, including the B'nai Menashe, an indigenous group that claimed to be one of the lost tribes of Israel. In fact, Judaism and Christianity actually had a head start in India way before it even kicked off in Europe. As tradition holds, Cochin, or Malabar Jews, migrated around 1000 BC to trade during the times of King Solomon, and in 53 AD, Thomas the Apostle of Jesus arrived in what is now the state of Kerala to establish the first church in India. India. Today, most Christians are found in the southwest and far east Seven Sisters regions. India also holds the highest population of Sikhs, Jains, and Zoroastrians, mostly found in the north, and the second largest Muslim population in the world after Indonesia. Most Muslims are populated around the northwest areas by Pakistan or in the east by Bangladesh. Oh, and don't forget the Buddhists. In fact, Buddhism actually started in India. Today, the Dalai Lama even takes refuge in Tezpur in the state of Assam. Oh, that was a lot of information. Okay, so by now you can probably get a grasp of how incredibly mixed and diversified
Yeah, very diverse. I see.
India's population is, but what exactly holds the country together? Well, for one, you kind of have to understand Indian history, which will take way too long to explain, but in the quickest way I can put it, Indus Valley, Maurya and Gupta empires, southern empires, Golden Age, Middle Kingdoms, a ton of new religions come flocking in, the north fell to the Delhi Sultanate, the south became the Vijayanagara Empire, the Mughal Empire starts, British East India Company, direct British rule, nationalist movements, independence, republic, economic liberalization in 1991, and here we are today.
Vijaya.
Essentially, India used to be made up of around 500 smaller royal princely states, and when the British came in, they kind of exploited them to manage such a huge population. Although India is a democratic federal republic and the largest democracy in the world, the old royal families still exist today, and although they have no political power, they hold high positions of influence in their communities across India. So today, technically, you could meet someone that would be considered an Indian prince or princess. Nonetheless, the biggest thing that really united Indians in the past 2 centuries would probably be their hatred of British rule. It was kind of like,
Well, this is not cool.
yep.
What do you say you and I work together and end this thing?
Essentially, one good thing you could say that came out of imperialism was that it kind of stopped all the internal squabbling and unified the groups towards one common goal, to get rid of imperialism. Today, Indians are just proud to be Indian. I mean, a Tamil soccer player can get cheered on by a Rajasthani, a Punjabi pop star can sell out tickets in Orissa. Speaking of which, all Indians love movies and music. India has the second largest film industry in terms of volume, pumping out nearly 2,000 films per year. Surprisingly, Nigeria pumps out more. However, the box office revenues gross out at only about $2 billion annually compared to Hollywood at over 10 billion, but still, it's impressive. And keep in mind, it's not just Bollywood, but it's also Tollywood, Gollywood, Collywood, Pollywood, and so on.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. I guess I know what wood means. Probably wood means movie or film.
There's like 20 different woods in India. Oh, and like every movie in India has at least one scene where everybody breaks out in song, and there's almost always a happy ending. Unfortunately, mainstream media has also put an aesthetic strain on many of the people, as it's almost become an obsession to be light or fair-skinned, causing people to go so far as to buy skin bleaching products. Some other controversies include things like illiteracy being an issue in many parts of the country, especially in the rural areas. But I mean, come on, when your country has literally hundreds of different writing systems, go figure. I mean, give them a break. Also, many of you guys, the Indian geography
This looks very interesting. Bengali, Gujarati, Tamil. It's amazing. It looks amazing. But of course it also is very complicated, I think.
asked me to bring awareness to the fact that India does unfortunately have some of the highest rates of human trafficking and child slavery. The government is trying to crack down and culture is slowly being reformed, but for now it's a sad reality that still does exist. Hey, here at GN we talk about the good and the bad, I'm just saying. Otherwise, sports do definitely tie everyone together.
Yeah, cricket. I heard about this as well. There are even cricket games going on between Pakistan and India. It's interesting. I watched once a video explaining how cricket works. I'm not such a big sport fan, so I don't even really care so much. But yeah, better they play cricket than they fight a war. That's always, 100%. I think that's a good thing. Yeah, maybe I will watch a cricket game at some point. If people want this on my channel, I may do this at some point. I don't think that I will give such good commentary because I was never into sports. So, but I may do it if you want. The same goes for, of course, for football.
As well, especially cricket, the national sport, even though they also used to do really well in field hockey. India also has a lot of their own indigenous sports like Dopkel in Assam, bull racing in Kerala, Insuknar, rod pushing in Mizoram, and Malakamba, the strange pole yoga gymnastics thing in the south. Otherwise, some notable people from India or of Indian descent might include people like Siddhartha Gautama or the Buddha, Mahavir, Ashoka the Great, Prithviraj Chauhan, Aurangzeb, Shivaji of the Maratha Empire, Mohandas or Mahatma Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, Jawaharlal Nehru, Naidu, Rabindranath Tagore, C.V. Raman, Satyendra Nath Bose, Bhagat Singh, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Shah Rukh Khan, Amitabh Bachchan, Amir Khan, Salman Khan, Priyana Chopra, Ben Kingsley, Sundar Pichai, Satya Narayana Nadella, A.R. Rahman, Sachin Tendulkar, and Mahendra Singh Dhoni. There's also literally millions of other famous people I missed out on. If you want to mention them, please, there's a comment section below. Use it. In the meantime, we gotta finish this info marathon, shall we?
Okay, the relations. Of course, relations within Pakistan and China are not so good. Obviously, I guess they have kind of good relations to Russia. Also, they have, I think, in the moment, definitely have good connections to the United States. And also Israel, I think, which is not something I really like so much, of course. Considering what Israel is doing right now. But yeah. I think they get along with Bangladesh and Nepal and Bhutan. I think Bhutan is one of the. India is one of the two only countries in the world which have an embassy in Bhutan, and also which are which don't need to pay this extra fee if they visit Bhutan. Bangladesh is, I think, the other country with an embassy. Let's see.
Now, no surprise, India is huge and therefore has a huge international outreach when it comes to diplomacy to almost everyone, except their immediate neighbors. First of all, countries with large population percentages of Hindus and Indians like Fiji, Guyana, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, Mauritius, and Malaysia typically stay close to India's roster of go-to friends. They enjoy cordial relations with trade. Now, the UK may have left on a sour note, but they still have a lot of ties to their former colonizer in terms of business and tourism. India is still part of the Commonwealth, not Commonwealth realm. There's a difference. Colonizer in terms of business and tourism. India is still part.
You see? Okay, so it's the Commonwealth of Nation. Canada's inside, parts of Africa, India, and Pakistan. And
Part of the
Bangladesh also.
Commonwealth, not Commonwealth realm, there's a difference, and the UK has over 1.5 million citizens of Indian descent. As mentioned in the China episode, China is kind of like India's I'm only here to do business with you and nothing else friend, as drama still hasn't subsided in regards to the territory conflicts. Now when it comes to the US, things started kind of sour back in the 70s during the Indo-Pak War of 1971, when the US sided with Pakistan, their arch nemesis. Today relations have cooled off, mostly the US supports India's move towards democracy and is a key ally in the military conflicts in the Middle East. When it comes to their best friends, however, most of the Indians I talked to have said Russia and Bhutan. Russia because during the Indo-Pak Wars, Russia came in and supported them, and ever since then, each country has held a high position of respect for the other, especially as global superpowers. Bhutan and India signed a treaty of...
India and Russia are also both in the BRICS alliance together with China, South Africa, Brazil, and now the 6 more members: Argentina, Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Egypt? No. There was something from Africa. Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Argentina. Maybe Egypt? Was it Egypt? Was it Ethiopia? I'm not sure. I have to find out. Give me a moment. So I checked now. The 6 new members are Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. So Egypt and Ethiopia. Okay, let's continue.
Friendship almost immediately after independence. The two countries have shared interests and a currency-pegged system as well. Bhutan even supported the annexation of their cousins in the Sikkim state into India, as it gave a nice buffer of land from China's stake to their claim. In conclusion, you will not find anywhere else on Earth like India. Thousands and millions of people inhabiting a colorful, majestic, green, slightly gritty at times slab of Earth, blessed and cursed in so many ways, yet wonderfully harmonized, mostly in a unity unlike anywhere else. In the end, that's India. Stay tuned, Indonesia is coming up next.
Very interesting and very educating, and I hope you also learned something. If you're not from India, if you are from India, I would be surprised if you learned something, but if you did, of course, please tell me in the comments. It would be amazing. Please subscribe. Please don't hate me. If you're from India and you think that I am too much in support of your enemies, I am not. I don't think that they should be your enemies. Yes, that's true. I think you should get along. You should be friends. Don't be stupid. But I'm not in support of any. I mean, I don't. Yeah, no. I'm in support of all countries which are not raging wars. So I don't like. There is something currently what's happening in Pakistan what I really don't like. That they displace 1.7 million people, Afghan people, from their country to Afghanistan, which is creating as far as I know at the moment, it's currently happening. So who knows how this will develop? A big crisis at the border. So that's something I don't like, but there's nothing wrong with Pakistan in general. If you think so and you're from India, then yeah, please don't think so. It doesn't help in any way. If you hate each other, you have to get along. You live right next to each other, so try to work towards a sustainable peace between your countries. You both have nukes. Don't go to war. Don't make anything stupid. Don't make anything that you will regret. Because even if you try to destroy the nuke missile sites from your opponent, maybe you miss some and they fire back, and then whoever fires any nuclear weapon in the world escalates the entire world peace to a state where no one can foresee how things will develop, because there are so many nukes in this world, and so far the only one country which used nukes against the civilian population is the United States. Let's keep it as this, and let's not escalate the situation. Get along and play cricket. Right now I am think about just continuing in this recording and or make a second recording, but put both recordings into one video. Pakistan. Geography now. Pakistan. I think I will do it in one video. So stay tuned, we continue. And here we are. Where's the geography now? Pakistan. You see here I have a small cat. Just because it's a cat sits now with me here. Here you see the cat. Meow. She watches with me the video, and we continue with Pakistan. So please tell me about the Pakistan-Indian relations.
Pakistan is sort of a societal paradox. It's only a little over half a century old, yet it retains history that predates the pyramids of Egypt. There's so much to cover, so pack your bags and stand on this bus ride to Pakistan.
It's time to learn geography.
Now! Hey everyone, I'm your host Barbs. Pakistan is kind of like the bridge between the Middle East and the rest of Asia. It is the only nation in the world known to have been established on the basis of religion alone.
Well, what about me?
I mean, originally kind of, yes, but you were like one unit with Pakistan, and then you got a second independence based on you not liking Pakistan.
Oh yeah, that's right. By the way, you should really redo my episode. It's completely...
There was this one war between East Pakistan and West Pakistan, which then later East Pakistan became later Bangladesh, and West Pakistan was Pakistan. There was a brutal war. There was a genocide which was going on in from Pakistan in Bangladesh, and I watched a video about this from what was this channel name? It's the Gravel Institute. Maybe I have a link to this video in the description. It is very terrible, of course, to listen to this and hear about this. But it's important that we don't forget this kind of genocide. so something like this doesn't happen again, of course. It was supported from the United States, and yeah, who is surprised about this?
Outdated, and you totally stole that map from Jay Foreman.
Oh, I met up with Jay in London. We had a jolly live stream chat and laughed about it. Calm down, he's cool with me.
It's true, I am cool with it.
I'm not really cool with it.
Anyway, time for Pakistan.
He was also in the United Kingdom episode. Jay Foreman. They make videos as a mapman. Also a great channel. I can only recommend the videos.
Pakistan. It's interesting because even the name, which means pure land, is even an acronym for the 5 former regions of British India that joined together: Punjab, Afghania, Kashmir, Sindh, and Baluchistan. Pakistan! Later the I was added to just help with pronunciation. Anyway, the map. Pakistan is located in South Asia, surrounded by Iran, Afghanistan, China, and India, with the Arabian Sea and Gulf of Oman in the south. The country is divided into 4 provinces and 3 territories, including the capital Islamabad that acts as its own territory. Keep in mind the northern territories are administratively operated under Pakistan's government, but India still claims parts or most of them. The country's largest city and former capital, though, is Karachi in the Sindh province, with about 15 million people. It holds the largest and busiest airport, Karachi Jinnah International, and the largest.
I actually also talked to someone from Pakistan. And they also talked about Karachi being very crowded and not very wise to go there because, you know, super big city, and of course criminality is much higher there than in other parts of the country.
Shipping port, the port of Karachi, which handles about 60% of the nation's cargo. However, the largest deep sea port in the world is actually here in Gwadar. Recently, it has been going over massive renovations and construction funded by the Chinese as a means to help with access to the Indian Ocean. The nation's second largest city is Lahore in the Punjab province, which holds the 3rd busiest airport, Lahore Allama Iqbal International. The country has a vast wide rail network extending from Karachi to Peshawar in the north, with branch lines extending to Iran, Afghanistan, and a proposed line that goes up to China. However, it would be very difficult considering that there are incredibly high mountains up further north, and today there is only one main road that crosses over from Pakistan into China. The N35 highway, otherwise known as the Karakoram Highway, the world's highest paved road at over 4,000 meters above sea level. This one little road is the life-giving artery on the 523-kilometer wide border that gives China access to the Indian Ocean and Pakistan access to the east, circumnavigating around India, which otherwise blocks them both. Yeah, I mean, it's really not hard to understand why China and Pakistan get along. It's like,
give me access to the West! Ugh.
Nope.
and now my favorite part of any episode.
Very funny.
And now my favorite part of any episode, territorial anomalies. Now, if you ask someone to draw the map.
That's probably similar to the territorial disputes with in India, just from the opposite side, and maybe some disputes with China.
Of Pakistan, you might get a lot of different images depending on who you ask. Some might draw this, some might draw this, and those that don't know what maps are might draw this. But in regards to the Pakistani administered areas, as we discussed before, this whole region is disputed with India, and it is the site of the most militarized area on the planet, Jammu and Kashmir. In a condensed explanation, in this area, Pakistan and India want all of this, China just wants these parts. Pakistan and India had 3 wars. They drew a militarized line over here between India and Pakistan. Pakistan relinquished their claim to the Shaksam Valley over to China, but India did not agree and still claims it. All the while, all 3 countries converge on the Siachen Glacier, the second largest non-polar glacier in the world, on point NJ9842, and the dead man zone begins where nobody dares to do anything. This is probably the most tense border point.
But it's actually good. If nobody does anything, it's great. No war. And of course, if someone wants just to negotiate without weapons, they should do it. They should take themselves all the time they need and just talk with one another.
In the world. So there you go. Confusing border stuff and weird tension with Chinese alliance.
Okay, it's high quality.
Pakistan! Some of the top spots you guys, the Pakistani geography suggested we mention in this video include places like Faisal Mosque, the Shandur Polo Grounds, the most dangerous hanging bridge in the world, Shangri-La Lake, the shipbreaking yard of Gadani. There's so many amusement parks like these. There are so many forts like these. There's even some Hindu sites like these. Of course, there are so many tombs and mausoleums. Here's a bunch of them. There's St. Patrick's Cathedral in Karachi, Changamanga.
I thought,
Mausoleums, here's a bunch of them. There's St. Pat.
yes, even a church, a Christian church, I thought it's more like only Islam thing, but there are also as it seems other religions.
Patrick's Cathedral in Karachi, Changamanga, Lahore Museum, Karachi War Cemetery, all of these UNESCO heritage sites, as well as these major archaeological sites. Yeah, you can see that there's a lot of backstory hidden within the valleys of Pakistan, and it goes way back to a very important river, which brings us to
The Indus River, so very important.
Pakistan's landscape is incredibly diverse. If you look at Pakistan from above, you'll notice it has some very prominent and distinctly contrasting features. And it's very interesting how Pakistan used these features to their advantage. For one, Pakistan is kind of precariously situated right at the convergence of the Indian, Arabian, and Eurasian plate zones. This is what has created the dry, hilly area known as the Sulayman Range and the Baluchistan Plateau in the southwest. Despite the Balochistan province, the largest one, taking up about 44% of the country's land, only about 6% of the population lives here. This effectively makes Balochistan and Azad Kashmir the earthquake capitals of Pakistan. The capital of Balochistan, Quetta, was nearly destroyed in 1935, yet rebuilt. In the north, you can find the tallest peak, K2 or Chogori, the second tallest mountain in the world, straddling the border with the disputed Shaksam Valley that both India and China claim. Keep in mind, 5 of the 14 tallest peaks in the world, known as the 8000ers Club, are located in the north of Pakistan, 4 in the Gilgit-Baltistan territory alone. From there, going south, you see the one iconic powerhouse lifeline of the entire nation, the Indus River. Fed by snowmelt from the mountains up north, this is the longest river in the nation that has dozens of branches and tributaries that essentially feed the entire country. In fact, the Indus River Basin is the world's largest irrigation system with over 58,000 kilometers of canals, cultivating over 230,000 square kilometers of land. Further south, you find the largest natural lake in the country, Manchar, along the edges of the Indus.
I knew that the Indus River was very important to Pakistan, but I didn't knew that it had it means so many shallots and so I'm not sure if I guess I watched the episode before, but I don't remember at the moment.
This valley that flow into the Indus River Delta with the Kheti Bundur South Wildlife Sanctuary. This is the most heavily forested and wildlife concentrated area of Pakistan that is not commercially exploited. Also, it is really hard to build harbors here because the swampy mangroves make it difficult. Finally, a skip to the east, you hit the Tarparkar Desert, which claims to be the world's only fertile desert with a dry landscape, but abundance of water sources that nourish the myriad of shrubby plants and wildlife. Just zoom in and you can find small ponds and creeks meandering throughout the entire area, well across the border into India. Now keep in mind, within all this stuff, there's a ton of cool notable sites, such as the Hingol mud volcanoes, that lake that looks like a teardrop, the Biafo Glacier, the Fairy Meadows, the second largest salt mine in the world, and there's so much more, but yeah, I'm done here. I need a triple shot of espresso break, which means, oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh, Noah. As you can probably guess by now, Pakistan's land is not only loaded with contrast, but resources as well. Over 40% of the population is employed in agriculture and livestock, where wheat and cotton are the major crops. They actually rank 4th in the world for cotton production and 3rd in goat meat. Pakistan is actually one of the largest textile producing countries in the world. In fact, this one city produces about half the entire world's football or soccer.
That's funny. That's interesting. I hope they get a good salary.
Balls. Otherwise, the nation is also thriving with wildlife.
By the way, of course, it's called football, not soccer. I mean, some countries call it soccer, but yeah, let's be honest. I mean, you play it with the foot, so call it football, and don't give it a weird name like a soccer, which doesn't have any logical connection to what you're doing with the ball.
About 660 bird species, over 170 mammal species.
I think a kickball would be a better name than soccer, because you kick it with the foot. But football, I think, it makes more sense, or at least equally sense. But kickball and football are better names than soccer.
including the national animal, the markhor. To finish off this segment like we always do, food. Some dishes you guys, the Pakistani geography suggested we mention include things like Baluchi-style saji and meat pie. Beef and lamb korma is also popular. In the north, you see dishes closer to Iranian and Afghan cuisine like lamb and beef kebab and Pashtun-style rice. We all know the world-famous Punjab cuisine. It's virtually the exact same as the Punjab in India. In the south, the Sindhi people will probably have more fish in their diets as they are on the coast. There's a lot of other cuisines we could have mentioned within the various ethnic groups, but that would take way too much time. We can, however, talk about the people groups in this next segment. The
demographics. I think 226 million people live in Pakistan, something like this. And yeah, let's see.
Thank you, Noah. Now, the weird thing about the entire South Asian subcontinent is that when you look at the people, many of them look exactly alike, and you would just assume they're basically relatives. I mean, you have Pakistani Punjabis and Indian Punjabis, Pakistani Kashmiris, Indian Kashmiris. They have the same languages and same cultural traditions and history and customs. And
I love it if people I like it also if there's half a heart is Russian flag, half the heart is Ukrainian flag. That's always very awesome, and with India and Pakistan is the same. So I think I would really like it, Indian girl and a Pakistani boy, or a Pakistani girl and an Indian boy, and then relationship. Much better than some stupid disputes about territory. Who cares about this kind of stuff? There should not be any borders in general in the world. Listen to the song Imagine from John Lennon, and you know what I mean?
In most cases, they really are family. But when it comes to nationhood and worldview, the dichotomy makes a clear boundary that splits one side from the other.
Keep talking. We're listening.
First of all, the country has over 200 million people and is the sixth
202, I said 226, so I was wrong a little bit.
Most populous nation in the world and second most populous Muslim nation after Indonesia. The country is very diverse in people groups, but the largest ones are the Punjabis at around 45%, Pashtuns in the north at about 16%, Sindhis in the south at about 14%, Saraikis at about 9%, and the rest are a mix of various other people groups like the Mujahirs, Baluchis, and so on. They use the Pakistani rupee as their currency, they use the type C and D plug outlets, and they drive on the left side of the road. Yeah, they were a former British colony. Now, Pakistan has 74 listed individual languages spoken throughout the country, 66 of which are indigenous and 5 have over 10 million speakers each. Almost all of them are Indo-Aryan. How on earth do all the people of Pakistan stay interconnected? Well, today, much like India, the nation has 2 official languages used and taught in schools, used as lingua francas, Urdu and English. Yeah, that's right, it's pronounced Urdu, not Urdu. For reference, Urdu is basically the same thing as Hindi, except it has a
Yeah, about this, I mentioned this as well when I was reacting to India. Please tell me, or people from Pakistan or people from India, how similar Urdu is to Hindi. When it is spoken, of course, it's much different when it is written.
Few extra words and phrases borrowed from Persian and Arabic. It's also written in the Perso-Arabic script. Here are some of you guys, the Pakistani geographers, explaining the subtle differences between Urdu and Hindi.
Hi, I'm Asya from Pakistan. Khatun is a woman in Urdu, and in Hindi it's Mahila, usually. Also, words like miracle, which is mojiza in Urdu, is chamatkar in Hindi.
I'm Maha from Lahore. Some of the words, or more like sentences, are quite the same in both the languages. Like the word magician, in both Hindi and Urdu it's jadugar. But to a Pakistani and an Indian, the language differences are quite stark. Let's take thank you for example. In Hindi, you would say dhanyawad, but in Urdu, you would say shukriya.
Thanks, guys. Now, within the areas that make up Pakistan today, there is no one type of Pakistani. They come in all different shapes and colors, but the general demographic configuration layout shows that the East is more Indo-Aryan and the West is more Perso-Iranian. We don't have time to explain the culture behind all the many people groups of Pakistan, but we can highlight the largest ones. Let's start off. Punjabis. They are the river people. The word Punjab even means land of 5 waters. They are the backbone of the Indus River Valley. They are known for having a lot of agriculture agriculture or artisan associated people. But basically, everyone knows that Punjabis are like the partiers of Pakistan. Their cousins, the Saraiki of the south, are kind of like a weird fusion between Punjabis and Sindhis. They love cooking with these flours and are famous for their Jumar dancing. Sindhis are the southerners of Pakistan that rule the Delta and the largest city, Karachi. They are kind of known for being the money handlers, the business guys of Pakistan that keep the gears running on the financial side. Sufi Islam has a huge impact on Sindhi culture. Pashtuns. These are the same Pashtuns that we talked about in the very first Geography Now episode, Afghanistan. Ooh, remember those days. Ooh. They are an Iranic people group related to the Persians and Afghani groups, not Indo-Aryan. Many of them still follow Pashtunwali, or the ancient self-governing tribal system that regulates everyday life activities in Pashtun communities. They have their own traditional clothing, festivals. Many celebrate Nowruz, the Persian New Year. And finally, Baluchis. They are the cousins of the Pashtuns, another Iranian people group. Like the Pashtuns, they have their own tribal societies. According to tradition, all the tribes are descended from one of the 5 children of Jalal Khan. At one point, there was kind of like a little bit of an insurrection amongst the Baluchi people for secession into an independent Baluchistan state. They are the most mineral-rich province in Pakistan, which is why their women are known for wearing some of the most lavish jewelry. And finally, we have to mention the cold mountain people, such as the Kashmiris, Baltis, Wakis, and so on. Kashmiris are Indo-Aryan, whereas Baltis are Sino-Tibetan. Nobody knows exactly what the Burushos are, but they exist. The Hunza people live the longest and have a super healthy special diet. The Kalash people have lots of blondes and redheads, and they practice a form of animism related to ancient Hinduism. And there are so many other people groups, but we don't have time. That's the gist of it. That's how you make a Pakistan. Otherwise, there are some traits that most Pakistanis kind of universally follow. And with that, here's Random Hannah to explain with culture stuff.
It was very complicated, but I tried to follow through it. The different people groups and what makes them differently from the other people groups. Tell me more about this in the comments if you want.
In Pakistan, no matter what region you go to, you are very likely to see the traditional dress called shalwar kameez. They come in all different colors and designs. India has Bollywood and Pakistan has Lollywood, the term used for the
They truly have a common origin. I just would mean also the same in Old Urdu. It's just interesting. Lollywood.
film industry centered around Lahore, mostly producing Urdu-speaking films so everyone can understand. Pakistan also has the most active and numerous UN peacekeepers, usually working in Islamic countries to help as mediators in religious-based conflict. Speaking of which, they have the 6th largest military force in the world. They are famous for the Wagah border ceremony done every day at the border with India. Many people know Pakistan and India as cricket powerhouses. However, they love field hockey and squash as well. They have the best performance in the world with 4 championships, and with squash, they have the most British Open squash championships and world championships as well. And finally, of course, at about 95% of the population adhering to it, Pakistan unites mostly under the Muslim faith. Nonetheless, the constitution guarantees freedom of religion and
freedom of religion, that's good. Or not religion in my case. I mean, not that I want to move to Pakistan or so, but it's I like it always if countries have freedom of religion and freedom of assembly and so on. So as much as possible, as much freedom as possible.
There are noticeable Hindu and Christian minorities. However, the Constitution does limit political rights of non-Muslims. For example, the president and prime minister must always be Muslim. And now, I'm sorry guys, but here's Keith with some music stuff.
In Pakistan, there are 3 main general genres you will hear commonly throughout the country: traditional regional music, religious music, and modern music. A long time ago, before the European system was adopted, many places in the Indian subcontinent had a musical notation print called Swaralipi. It depicted notes, scales, and pitch. Raga music uses this a lot. Nonetheless, much of Pakistani music is based on improvisation and learned technique. Today, everything from Pakistani hip-hop, pop, and yes, even metal has been growing in the past few decades.
I love how you were so pumped for half that sentence and then you're like, you died at the end. Now, usually we don't sugarcoat everything here at Geography Now. I asked you guys, the Pakistani geography peeps, to explain some of the current issues Pakistan is facing today.
I already spoke about a current issue I see, or which is, I mean, right now the displacement of Afghan people, forced displacement. I have to add here, of course. And this is a currently developing situation, so I'm not sure how it will develop, but yeah, that's of course something I disagree with. You should never displace people, forcefully displace people. In this regard, I mean, sometimes it's maybe necessary if you build a highway or something else, but not millions of people, 1.7 million people, in a different country. So, and that's something you should never do. I think it's even a crime against humanity. I think it's against humanitarian law. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Let's see.
They do have blasphemy laws enacted in their government system, which some see as a suppression of speech. Illiteracy and unemployment can also be high in certain areas as well. Just like their neighbors, human trafficking, especially of the homeless and homeless children, has been widely documented. Many officials like this guy are trying their best to fight against it. And finally, yes, we all know that there is a controversy with the jihadist terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda that have been operating back and forth within regions of South Asia, often within Pakistani borders. This has been a constant struggle that the country has been facing. Their army has undergone numerous pursuits and clashes and battles against them. Terrorist attacks have killed over 30,000 people and caused over $67 billion in damage. Luckily, it has been in decline since the peak in 2009. Whew, yeah, Pakistan has beautiful land and people, but to quote Poison, every rose has its thorn.
Hey man, I'm the music guy, man, dude.
Sorry, Mr. Chance. Anyway, we gotta move on. History. In the quickest way I can put it, Neolithic Mergar people, Indus Valley civilization, Indo-Aryans migrate, Hinduism, Persians, Macedonians, Mauryans, a little bit of Buddhism comes in, weird, confusing Indo-Greek, Scythian, Parthian kingdoms, more Hindu kingdoms, Arab Caliphate, Islam comes in, Turkic dynasty, Mongols, yeah, even the Mongols took a stab at it, weird regional kingdom era, Mughals, British, independence and partition, Pakistan is 2 parts, wars with India, Bangladesh breaks and doesn't want to be part of Pakistan anymore, first democratic transition from military rule, coups, military tension, China deals, country grows, and here we are today. And finally, here are some famous people you guys, the Pakistani geography, suggested we mention. Jahangir Khan, Sohail Abbas, Malala Yousafzai, a bunch of singers and actors like these people. There's just too many to mention. But one of the most famous ones would probably be Rahat Fateh Ali Khan. So many politicians and army people like these. I'm just gonna put it on the screen for you. As well as all these sports and athletic people. Mahbub ul Haq, Mir
Khan seems to be a popular last name. I mean, the last thing in a name. I'm not sure how the name is organized. So in Germany, of course, first name, family name. Sometimes the secondary first name. But I'm not sure how it is in Pakistan or in India. Is this matter? But Khan seems to be something popular in Pakistan.
Muhammad Ali Khan, Abdul Qadir Khan, Abdul Salam, and Shahid Khan. A lot of poets and religious figures like these, but this one, Allama Iqbal, probably being one of the most prominent ones. Yeah, so many notable famous Pakistanis. I'm pretty sure a lot of people around the world have heard of them, which brings us to the world relations.
Yeah. Good relations with the United States, at least at a certain part in the history, and with China at the moment, because China doesn't like India and Pakistan doesn't like India, and they have something like a deal with this port the Chinese built or helped to build. The relations with India, of course, not so good. Good relations to Muslim countries, and also to Azerbaijan, I think. Because Pakistan doesn't recognize Armenia, as far as I know, as a country, as an independent state. Even Azerbaijan and Armenia have fought many wars in the past, and Pakistan decided to be on the side of Azerbaijan, but even Azerbaijan recognized Armenia's existence, but not Pakistan, for some reason. If you're from Pakistan, you can maybe tell me why, or you don't know about this yourself, or don't know the reason yourself, then yeah, you cannot. But if you know, please tell me.
Which brings us to... Now you have to understand, Pakistan was kind of like a constructed state to consolidate religious communities in a former empire, so that means with Pakistan, a lot of their diplomacy depends on strategy. For one, even though they were a former colony, they still have a somewhat neutral-ish kind of amicable relationship with the UK. The UK has the largest population of Pakistanis in Europe. Many come from the Mirpur district, and you can still see much of the cultural influences in their society, such as cricket and driving on the left. They have generally good relations with the Gulf countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. Many Pakistanis moved there for work as expats. The past few years, though, there has been some controversy with mistreatment of Pakistanis and other expats by certain companies, but overall, the governments get along at least. Afghanistan and Iran are like their love-hate cousins. During terrorist conflict years, Pakistan took in millions of Afghan refugees that are essentially brothers of the Pashtuns in the north. It remains a constant.
And this is as I spoke about the Afghan people who are now forced back into Afghanistan. So yeah, if you know also about this and you want to explain something about this, please do so.
Issue though that they are facing to this day. Iran is also a key figure in business and trade, as well as supplying oil and other imports. India and Bangladesh also have a somewhat love-hate relationship. It's more like they hate the governments but love the people. India and Pakistan, of course, have so much history together, even before British colonial years. As mentioned, many of the people groups there share the same language and culture. The only thing essentially separating them is religion. Bangladesh, of course, broke away from Pakistan after the partition years and favored India shortly after independence. This kind of angered Pakistan at first, but decades later they've kind of moved on and have good relations once again. In terms of their best friends, however, many Pakistanis might kind of end up saying Turkey or China. Essentially what it comes down to is a kind of standoff against India. When one giant leaves you drama, you kind of settle for the other one. Together they have the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor project, in which they allow them to use the port of Gwadar for their development and trade deals funded by China. Each country's people are welcomed in each other's and visits are common. With Turkey though, they've kind of always had a respect for the people, culture and history, TV shows and movies. They support the government and have many diplomatic business ties with them. This of course by default also brings in Azerbaijan, Turkey's little brother. They love to travel to both of these nations and even go so far as to support Azerbaijan's side in the controversial disputes with Armenia. In conclusion, Pakistan may have been formed in the 40s, but you have millennia of backstory with this place. Pakistan, it is what it is. Go for it. Stay tuned. Palau is coming up next.
So I've done now both countries, India and Pakistan. I hope you enjoyed this video. Whether you are now from India or from Pakistan or from anywhere in the world. Please, if you are from India or Pakistan, explain to me your current diplomatic situation, where you what kind of disputes you have, which were not mentioned maybe, or something else which is still lingering in the past. What your governments are doing, if you just don't like the other country's government, or also not the people. I think he mentioned that the people mostly get along, which is understandable. I think that in many situations is the case, like between Iraq, Syria, they also get along as far as the people are concerned, but they don't like the government of the other country. And probably also Russia and Ukraine. So normal Russian people like normal Ukrainian people, and normal Ukrainian like normal Russians, but they hate each other's government. I think it's something in general between countries which have a dispute. Yeah, so tell me about your relations with one another, India and Pakistan, and also tell me about the differences between Urdu and Hindi and the similarities. Recommend to me some nice videos you want to see me watching, maybe about the history, the culture, or something else about India or Pakistan. And yeah, it's recommend me stuff like also video games you want me to play. I also make some let's plays, or other things you want to see on my channel. Maybe I will do it. And otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and yeah, thank you very much for watching.